One of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was borrow games and trade. I loved borrowing stuff, especially letting other friends borrow my games. I got a good way of trying other games out that you couldn't buy because you had no money. I remember borrowing games like The Lost World Jurassic Park, Road Rash Jailbreak, Twisted Metal 2, and even the Driver series. Driver was a huge hit when it first came out. It was kind of groundbreaking with the graphics and just the way it played and such. I didn't really get a chance to play a whole lot of it because, I'll be honest, that tutorial mission was a pain in the ass, and I'm sure anyone watching this knows that that'll either make or break the game for you. I mainly played Driver 2 though. Driver 1 I didn't play as much, but the second game I also borrowed, and I definitely had more fun with that. I remember playing a lot more free though. I used to drive around the towns and just have fun. Well, I've had these games in my collection for several years now, and I finally decided that I would start and play the games all the way through. I got a chance to finally do that, and definitely want to talk about both these games together in this video. We got a lot to go over in this video with these two games, so sit back, relax, let's see if the Driver games still hold up today, and if they're worth playing. Driver came out in 1999, it was developed by Reflections, published by GT Interactive, it was only released for the PS1 as well as PC. Reflections also made some other games. They started out with the Destruction Derby games, which those were on the PS1 early, back in like 95-96 time. They've made another driving game on the PS1 called Thunder Truck Rally, and they also made The Crew, which is a more modern game on the PS4. The Driver games are for sure inspired by car chases and getaways from movies and such. They kind of replicate that with the gameplay. The main protagonist in this game is John Tanner. He's usually the protagonist in most of the games, not all, and you got a buddy named Jones. Well, in this game, you actually go undercover, and your goal is to seek out this evil organization terrorist group. They do a bunch of drugs and such, and you're trying to break them pretty much and arrest them. There's cutscenes in between most missions in the game, and it'll kind of tell you what's going on, and you'll see different people, you'll do different deals, do different missions for people, getaways, car chases, run from the cops, all that stuff. Driver is a driving game, and you don't really do any racing in some of these games, at least the PS1 games. You mostly just do mission-based kind of stuff, get to the end and do what they want you to do. Controls here are about natural, what you think it is about how this game plays. You move with the D-pad or use the analog control stick. You can use that as well. You can hold X to give the gas and accelerate. Circle is your burnout technique. Triangle is your handbrake. Square is brake in reverse. You can honk your horn with R1, but you don't have to do that. You can look left or look right with L2 and R2, or hold both to look behind you. You can use the select button and switch camera views to first person if you want to. I never really did this, but the option's there. And you got max steer lock. You can hold L1 and it'll overcorrect your turn whenever you fully turn. You'll need to know these controls though for the very first beginning of the game, the tutorial level. As I mentioned earlier, it is a pain in the ass. It took me about 30 minutes to get it right, and a lot of people usually rage quit at this point. But just learn the controls and you'll figure out exactly how to do the checklist that it wants you to do with all the tricks. You only got 60 seconds too, which is also what makes it really hard. Driver is a big, heavy mission-based game. It's very linear to its core for the most part, and you'll beat a mission, you'll move on to the next, and sometimes, maybe every other mission, you'll go to your apartment complex. And at the apartment, this is kind of like your hub in the game. You can save the game there, you can look at your options, and you have a voicemail machine. And the voicemail machine, basically, sometimes you'll have multiple voicemails. In other words, this is just a different path you can take per mission. You don't have to do all the missions, you only choose one of them, and then after that, then you'll go to the next main mission. It's kind of cool because if a mission's too hard, you can start on a different mission that's a little easier. There's a few different kind of missions you'll do in this game. You'll do getaway missions, sometimes escort, run from the cops, and delivery missions. If you want to see the mission too, you have a map you can pull up on the pause screen. You hit the start button and it'll pull the map up. It'll show where you are, it's a little tiny dot, and this like black cone thing with a little red symbol sometimes, that's where you need to go. Few things to keep in mind in this game too in missions is you have the felony meter, the damage meter, and your time limit. Obviously, the time limit, if it hits 0, you completely lose the mission. If your damage meter fills up, you lose the mission as well. The felony meter pretty much is like your stars in GTA. It just tells you how hot you are with the cops. It doesn't really make you fail or anything. It's just more cops when it's full. The game is based on 4 major cities in real life. You go to cities like New York, Miami, San Francisco, and even LA. And in between missions as well, forgot to mention this, you can actually save the game. So thankfully when you beat a mission, you can save it right after. When it comes to the enemies in this game, for the most part, it's pretty much the cops, and later we'll fight some gangster guys, but mostly cops and ongoing traffic. Sometimes traffic gets in your way. They'll make a turn and do a left turn or right turn, and they'll just run right into you, and you gotta be very careful and have some very good reactions in this game. That leads me to the next point about this game, the difficulty. Anybody who knows about Driver who's played it before, this game is a freaking bitch to play. This game is hard. And there's some easy missions sometimes, and then there's some missions that just feel impossible. You'll be trying over and over again on some of these missions because there's not really a pattern with some of the cops that come into play. They'll just kind of spawn and they'll run into you. Thankfully, you can turn off the difficulty to easy if it's on medium or hard, and that'll help a little bit, but nonetheless, it's still a pretty dang hard game. The biggest challenge you'll face in this game, about 90% of the time, is definitely the cops. The cops are no joke. They will take you down, they want you dead, they really hate you. And you'll find them all the time, and it's very easy to pass them on your radar because they have these white cones on the radar, and if you run in their scope, well, you get caught and your felony meter goes up. So you gotta lose them if you can in order to make it better to where you can get to your destination. And on top of that, you got a time limit. And if you run out of time, you lose. If the cops beat you down, you lose. There's just so many ways to lose on these missions. Another obstacle in this game you'll come across later in the game is inclement weather. When it's raining or snowing, believe it or not, it makes your driving way worse in these kind of conditions. And you got all these cops and shit just chasing you. The last few missions in the game, and some throughout the game, are like this and are just very hard. An example that's very tough is a mission in San Francisco. This mission's brutal. There's 4 parts to the mission. You go from point A to point B to point C, then you get a checkpoint, then you have to keep doing the mission, and you have to take the damage you had over from the last mission. It carries over, and unless you just have a good run, you're going to have like a lot of damage by that point, and it'll be easy for you to take the second half and just lose. This happened to me, and it took me several hours to do it. It's not really worth it either. It's just a pain in the ass. Another incident is you have to meet these guys in LA and pick them up and escort them all the way across freaking town, and the cops are just heavy on your ass, and you immediately get like half felony when you find them. It takes a little bit of luck on a lot of these missions too to make it, and many retries. If you're tired of story mode, you can always do training, high score stuff, film directory, as well as taking a ride just cruising through town. You've got driving games, it's pretty much just the missions without the story, and you got cheat codes, and I'll be honest, I had to use this a couple times for invincibility, because this game is so brutal, so at least I got some variety here that's not just the story mode. Overall, Driver on the PS1 is a pretty fun game. It's got good controls, it looks great, and the cutscenes are a nice touch to add to the story. Some frame rate issues here and there, not too crazy, but the biggest thing is definitely the difficulty. There's some random difficulty spikes. You'll have some easy missions at first, and then you'll see a hard mission, then it'll kind of go back to being easy, and then you'll get brutal missions again. It kind of just does this the whole time. The last mission in the game, not to spoil anything, it feels very impossible, so just gonna let you know, if you ever decide to play the game, it's freaking hard. Another thing this game really needed was more mission variety. You kind of just go to point A to point B a lot, doing escorts or deliveries, and just running from the cops. That's about all you do in this entire game. At least you have the other game modes to suffice for that, and you can kind of go and just cruise around and explore, but still, could have used more variety with the main story. It definitely was a groundbreaking game at the time though, because there wasn't really many games like Driver. It started a whole new franchise with many sequels to come. Driver 2 came out a year later in 2000 for the PS1. In this one, you go undercover again for a different scenario involving some drug guys that are in Brazil, and you gotta go after them. So there are some differences with this game versus the first game. The controls and everything are exactly the same. There is nothing changed here. It plays exactly like the original, but instead of the other cities you were in like Miami, New York, this time you're in some different places. You start off in Chicago, then you go to Havana, Cuba, then you go to Las Vegas, and then finally Rio, Brazil. The cutscenes in this game look a whole lot better than the last game. They're actually kind of cool and nice to watch what's going on. The cities are also a lot bigger to explore. They're huge, and they've done a lot of detail here with like everything in the backgrounds and such, and going up ramps, and there's interstates. It's just really cool. With all that though, does come a price. This game has a lot more loading in it, and sometimes you'll see a lot of loading patches where it's just slow. It's like 5 frames per second. It's not too too often, but definitely wanted to mention that. The missions in this game too also got a little bit of variety going on. What was added is you have these proximity missions where you can't get too close to the target or get too far away. There's a lot more chase missions in this game too. There's just one here with the truck and he's throwing like grenades at you, and it feels kind of like a boss fight. I kind of like that. It actually gave a fun challenge. The biggest change of the whole game though is you get to go out of your car and walk around.
Yes!
Holy crap, I know, that is just so freaking crazy. Can you believe that? But yeah, you can go into other cars and such. It's actually a big deal because whenever you do that, it can reset your immunity meter as well as your damage meter. So if you got a lot of cops on you and you got a lot of damage, sometimes you can get out of the car, change to another one, and you are refreshed. I wish this was in the last game because this is a very welcome addition to this one. Difficulty-wise, it's all still here. This game is about just as hard as the first game. In some ways it's harder, in some ways it's easier. The game starts off a little tough, but you get used to it, it's not too bad. But there's missions like this one, you start the mission immediately, and you gotta beat down this truck until his damage meter's full. Well, right behind you, there is another car, and he's just wailing on you. I swear to God, you will fail the mission the moment you start it unless you're prepared and you've done it before. It took me several tries to do this one. There's another mission too, I think a lot of people know this one. It's the mission where you have 7 minutes, and you're in Havana, Cuba, and you have to take down 4 cars. Now, it sounds kind of easy, you have 7 minutes, but no. It takes about half the time to find the first car, then you gotta beat the second, third, and fourth, and they just run away from you, and it's just so freaking frustrating. It's like, dude, you gotta do all this over again. If you fail, and you could have like 10 seconds left, and you lose the car, well, there's 7 minutes down the drain. Some nuisances to watch out for with this game is when you play this game on a PS3, every time a cutscene happens, if you're playing on analog mode, it always changes it to digital mode. I don't have a clue why it does this, so you'll have to change that every time if you're using analog sticks. This is also a 2-disc game. If you're on disc 2 and you're trying to get back to your game, you know, from taking a break, well, you gotta pop disc 1 in first. Then you put in disc 2. Because if you have disc 2 in right away, well, it's gonna say put disc 1 in. That's so stupid. I don't understand that. I guess the game data on disc 1, you need that to get to the disc 2. I don't know. It's just, I've never seen that before. The story in this game, though, is a little bit better than the last one. It's just more entertaining. The cutscenes make it more lively and just more going on, so it's definitely entertaining. Driver and Driver 2 on the original PlayStation are definitely fun games to play. They have some issues. I mean, of course, there's some frame rate drops here and there, especially with the second game. The games are also very challenging, like very challenging. However, there are cheat codes you can use in the first game, and the second game you can drive around to find the cheats if you unlock the places to go to, so it can be manageable at least with the difficulty. Honestly, for games that came out over 25 years ago, it's still pretty impressive how well they play. Graphically, these games are pretty ambitious with the graphics on the PS1. They really push the limits with the second game for sure. Even small stuff, like I love the music in the background in these games. It's very catchy and very original. I like it a lot. Fits the attitude. So do the Driver games still hold up today? It just depends. I think they do. They're pretty fun, and like I said, you can manage the difficulty with the cheats, and they can be a fun time to play through. It also appeals to hardcore gamers who want a challenge too. This would be the Dark Souls of driving games, I guess. However, I know games like Grand Theft Auto 3 and beyond definitely have all the things that Driver has and more, so I can see why people wouldn't want to go back to these games. But if you want to play these games and you love the PS1 and you want something new you've never played before, then yeah, I think Driver is definitely worth checking out. Luckily too, these are kind of cheap games no matter what you got. You get the Black Label or the Greatest Hits. They're like $10 a piece, and that's a very good price for both these games. The PC edition of these games is not too bad either. It looks a little bit better, so go that route if you prefer that. They continued on and made sequels after, the third game not being the greatest, and others too. Driver San Francisco was really the last console game they ever made, and I reviewed this game about a year ago. Check that video out sometime. After playing through these difficult games, I need a break. I need to go play some Kirby or something to get my mind off this difficulty. Well, that about wraps up everything about these two games on the PS1. I appreciate you guys for sticking around and watching this video. If you got anything to say, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you got to say. And as always, thank y'all for watching. Y'all take it easy.